Welcome everyone to our very first Survivor School Masterclass in our Masterclass series. This is Dr. Chad Nowlin telling us all how we can just get some better sleep. So with that, Chad, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Awesome. Really excited to be here. Pumped up to be the very first person to kind of throw some good info out for people. If you're here, if you're watching now or later, I just want to be super clear. Nothing I'm ever going to tell you is rocket science, but it is going to be real science. And so we can always rest on that. I'm not just going to give you my opinions. These are things I have used personally and with thousands of clients at this point. My game is pain and recovery, and sleep is just a huge part of that. And so our goal always, inside my clinical practice has been to create really simple tools that people can use, can implement in their daily lives to help them accomplish higher levels of recovery. So you can start to bring your sleep back into alignment with what your body wants to be the norm. Most people don't always have bad sleep. Something happens that kind of shifts their body away from what we would consider high quality, good sleep. I also want to be super clear. This is not necessarily about getting more sleep. This is about maximizing the quality of sleep inside the time frame that you can get it, because life is always going to throw a monkey wrench in the amount of quantity that you can get, whether it be travel, vacation, kids. I got 3 of those. So sleep, early on, sleep was all over the place. And so this is really about creating structure, habits, and routines to maximize the quality. These things solve the only 2 problems that there are with sleep. There's problems going to sleep, and there's problems staying asleep. There are different things going on that can create both of those, but really that's the only 2 things that people are going to struggle with, is one of those 2 things. Now, sometimes that's I can't get to sleep when I first lay down. Sometimes it's I just can't seem to stay asleep for any meaningful length of time. And then the other is I can go to sleep okay, but then when I wake up, I have a hard time going back to sleep. And so there are a lot of things we're going to look at. And these are not forever. These are just for now. Understand, like, real life includes phones and TVs and things before bed that are just kind of a means to maybe hang with your spouse or a friend, or just kind of relax and unwind, sometimes in a social element. So we're not trying to say those things aren't important, but what I am trying to say is sometimes in order to bring your body back into alignment with what it needs to improve your quality of sleep, we just need better structure. We need better environments. We need better routines. And we just need a little discipline around sleep until we can move back into this place where sleep is normal, right? So I'm going to share my screen. This is a pretty simple document. All right. So like I said, none of this is rocket science, but everything that you see here is based on actual science. And it's just a matter of removing barriers, like making you go look for the science yourself. If you want me to double back with cited sources, I can do that. But really, these things just make a lot of common sense along with being highly scientific per the research. And so the first thing that is the easiest thing to do if you are having trouble getting to sleep or staying asleep is to take control over the environment that you sleep in. I can speak to this personally, and for hundreds or thousands of clients we've worked with, is that it's kind of difficult to get your environment ideal if you're not paying attention to it or actually pursuing that on purpose. And so some of the best research around the environment has to do with how cool it is in the room. If you've ever been like sweaty trying to go to sleep, that's a no-go. And so the recommendation is between 62 and 68 degrees room air. Now, some people might not tolerate 62 degrees on the thermostat for financial reasons, and that's okay. But the closer we can creep the temperature to 68 or less, the better. The reason for that is it requires between 62 and 68 to bring core temperature down, which is the body's goal during sleep. It's to actually have the core temperature come down just a degree or 2. It's not much. but that is the body's ideal state to move into that period of rest and relaxation. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of the states of the body, sympathetic versus parasympathetic, in just a little bit. But there are some product recommendations here. Do your research. These are more on the investment side. Okay. 8 Sleep is, we'll just say it's expensive for a sheet. Okay. BedJet, a little less expensive. 8 Sleep is a temperature controlled mattress cover that will actually go from 20 degrees below room temperature up to about 110 degrees, I believe. And it will actually start you at a certain temperature and bring you down slowly. So there's some nice things about that. It uses water to do that. BedJet is largely similar, but it uses air to do that. So some pros and cons would be like, okay, you accidentally stab your mattress with a screwdriver and now you've got water all over everything. Whereas BedJet, you just have a hole in your bed tire and you're losing air. So I don't know, plug it up with some duct tape and away we go. But there's other products in the market like this. These are the two I am most familiar with. There are many, many things, but the idea is, one, how can we control the temperature of the environment, either in the room or whatever you're laying on, to help your body come down into this kind of -1 or 2 core temperature state. The next one is total darkness. When I first started paying attention to this, it really surprised me how difficult it actually was to get total darkness in the room. You can get your blackout shades, and those are super valuable because that blocks all the light from outside in, whether that be cars, if your house is in a position where when cars turn, it flashes through. Even when you're asleep, your body perceives things going on outside. And so it's important that you not get trapped in this idea like, well, yeah, I'm asleep, and so it doesn't matter if light's coming in. But if your sleep is disrupted in any way, this is something that's so easy to take control of. It just black it out, cover it up, make sure the light doesn't get in, to give your body every opportunity you can to make sure it's not disrupted in its sleep patterns. The small electronic lights is what really blew my mind. They're all over the place. If you got a TV and you got phones and you got other little watches and trinkets and things that have light, just don't be surprised if you go looking for these things, how many there actually are in your room. I'm not asking you to get rid of your TVs or your electronics, but take a small piece of black electrical tape and just put it over the light. Okay. Your TV's off and you know when it's on. We don't need the red LED indicator on to let us know. So take some time, find those things, cover it up. I know many, many people, me included, use phones as the alarm clock. Okay. They do still sell alarm clocks, believe it or not. And if you have trouble going to sleep, your phone is going to play a huge role in that for a lot of reasons. One, blue light exposure. We know people are on their phones right before bed, and there's a tremendous amount of research with blue light exposure disrupting the circadian rhythm, which is your body's natural clock deciding, hey, it's time to go to bed. And so just think about the amount of exposure we have to that all day long. Your body really needs a little bit of time to unwind from this exposure. The other thing is that most of the time when people are on their phone, they're watching TV shows that make them feel some kind of way, or they're scrolling Instagram that makes them feel some kind of way. And this just puts the brain in a certain state that can make it more difficult to shut down and move into a state of rest and relaxation. So, the other thing, this is some of the newer research, is actually phones are always emitting and receiving radio waves, even at rest. And your body is basically a giant antenna. Okay. So even if you are asleep, if your phone is sending and receiving information, your body and your brain will pick up on that to some degree. And so, again, we're not saying these things are like super sinister. We're just trying to control the things that we can control so that we have the best opportunity to get our sleep train back on track. Okay. So take your phone, plug it in the bathroom. This is also a nice hack if you have a hard time waking up, where you actually have to get up to go turn your alarm off in another room. So nice little hack there. But if that's not your jam, pick up an alarm clock and then set it, turn it face down so the lights aren't staring you in the face. Okay. If you do happen to wake up, don't check the time. Don't go blue light exposure middle of the night. Don't flip the alarm clock over and take in the light. Some new research about becoming a morning person. I'm not classically a morning person. I'd rather stay up till midnight working, doing things, and then wake up at 7. But that my phase of life, that's not a good strategy for me right now. It's actually been shown that if you want to become a morning person, you can do that in 3 days. And all that requires is that go to sleep at your normal bedtime on night 1 and wake up at the time you choose. Like, just do it. If you go to bed at midnight normally and your goal is to start waking up at 5, wake up at 5. But what you need to do is wake up. And the most ideal situation is to get bright light exposure as quickly as possible, get in a social setting as quickly as possible, get movement in as quickly as possible, and consume caffeine as quickly as possible. We're going to put a caveat on that. But these are research-based ways to convert your body over to a morning person. By the 3rd day, you're probably going to wake up 3 or 4 minutes before your alarm goes off, which might be the most annoying thing on the planet. But I've tested it. It's true, and it does work. The caveat on caffeine has to do more with the mid-afternoon crash, right? So I still consider these things sleep. They're based around being sleepy, creating habits of sleep, and sleeping in the middle of the day is also a great way to disrupt your sleep at night. And so we're not saying naps are bad, but if you're taking a 1-hour nap and not like a little 15-minute power nap, then these can feed into your problem later in the day. So what we're looking at with caffeine is actually, I don't want to get too nerdy here, but there's a system in the body that I'll keep it as simple as possible. The system runs on what's called adenosine. And adenosine builds up in the body throughout the day. And it is another one of the mechanisms in parallel with your circadian rhythm that kind of pushes your body into this zone of, hey, it's time to go to bed because I'm getting sleepy. Caffeine blocks adenosine from the adenosine receptor. So what happens is when you wake up and consume caffeine early, what you do is you don't allow the body to completely clear the adenosine out of the body, which happens during sleep. And so let's say you don't sleep enough, so you've got a buildup of adenosine, and then you consume caffeine and you have adenosine piling on around this receptor, but it's not actually getting to it. And then when your caffeine wears off, which is about a 4 to 5 hour half-life, which means if you drink coffee at 9, you're probably crashing around 2. All that adenosine rushes onto the receptor and gives you that mid-afternoon, man, I need a nap so bad. Using the caffeine as part of like becoming a morning person, valid. I would also say if you can create the habit of getting up, getting in a social setting and bright lights and getting your movement in, caffeine can become less relevant, and you can avoid that afternoon crash a little later in the day. And that's going to be really important. If you find yourself having the crash and sleeping in the middle of the day, and then you also find yourself having trouble going to sleep and staying asleep, that can be one of the reasons. All right. So not totally sure how we got onto that from total darkness, but those are some nice little pieces for just making sure your sleep hygiene is moving in the right direction. All right. Final piece for environment is ambient sound. There are recommendations for total quiet. Number one, that is very, very difficult to achieve because you can't control sound coming from the outside in very well. But it is very easy to control ambient sound inside the room. And so my vote is for ambient sound. I will also say, uh, because of our modern lifestyle, uh, dead quiet, like total absence of sound is eerie and it's weird and it's uncomfortable. And so having that nice ambient sound is a much more preferred both for me and probably for many other people. I'm not sure if you've ever had the opportunity to use a deprivation tank. It takes some practice. Very, very weird to be total quiet. So ambient sound. Now there's lots of different colors of noise, oddly enough. The two we're going to center around are brown versus white noise. They do sound a little different. My daughter's got a sound machine. It sounds like you're in the back seat of an airplane. This is brown noise. It's like that deep. It knocks me out almost as soon as I'm in the room. I'm trying to rock her to sleep, which doesn't work. It just knocks me out instead. But brown noise has been shown to help people turn off the wheels, get the wheels to shut down. So if you are somebody who has trouble going to sleep, brown noise has a higher evidence that that might be your play, versus white noise is going to be geared more towards somebody who has trouble staying asleep. That probably has to do with frequency and how that matches the brainwave states through the different phases of sleep. But in any case, what we're looking to do here is a couple of things. One, create ambient sound. Let's choose a color noise that we can at least say has some research behind it to help with one thing versus the other. You can decide if that's true for you or not. Either way, having an ambient sound in the room is probably going to be better than just kind of losing control over random noises that can happen in the middle of the night. I do recommend a sound machine, not because I'm such a big fan of them, but because I am a big fan of getting your phone out of the room, which means you're either going to have to use your phone as alarm clock and get up to go get it, but then you can't have your noise right there beside the bed. So sound machines are nice. They allow you to solve some of the other problems and still get what you need from an environmental perspective. And largely, these are the easiest things to do. Just create an environment that is prepped and ready for sleep. But what has been the most impactful is routine. And this is something that adults lose. Not sure when, early, early. I'm not sure what point it happens, but most adults' bedtime routine is brush my teeth, watch TV, go to bed. And that's, if your sleep is kind of gone off the rails, there's a lot of issues with that. So if you're listening and you have kids, this will resonate. We had, for all three of our kids, the same routine for bedtime: bath, book, bottle, bed. Now, is that because there's some magic to taking a bath? No. I mean, but it's good to, like, we just wanted to put our kids to bed clean. We want to read books. There's a lot of reasons why you read your baby's books. The bottle is, it's the nighttime. Hey, let's fill them up so they don't wake up hungry. And then we put them in bed. There's no magic to those things outside of the magic of giving them the same external cue every single time before they get in the bed. And what that does is it starts giving the body and the brain these physical external cues that, hey, it must be time to go to sleep, because we're doing these things that we always do before we go to sleep. So I can't overstate the importance of a routine that goes beyond brush your teeth, turn off the TV, and go to bed. Most people have not spent any time unwinding their body out of the sympathetic fight or flight state that they're in from the day into the parasympathetic state that they need to be in for their body to actually bring itself down into a state where the brain can turn off, the body can turn off, and it can slide into your first sleep stage. Okay. So,
Hey, Chad, just real quick, can I just have you
yeah.
scroll down on the sheet? Because It looks like it's cutting off on our screen right at routine, and it sounds like this is the good stuff you're about to get into.
It was. I was waiting to reveal my
Oh,
secrets.
I'm sorry. Okay, I thought we were
No,
missing out on something
we're
here.
all
All
good.
right.
No, yeah. So let's jump in here. Uh, and like I said, a lot of this stuff you're going to think, oh, duh, of course. But sometimes our other habits and routines take over, and we forget that we're going to go to bed in 4 or 5 hours. So you just got to start paying attention, probably a little earlier in the day. Like if it's just like anything else, if you want to get good at doing something, you got to start thinking about it more often. That's how you get good at anything. It's proximity and duration. And if you want to get better at sleeping, you need to spend a lot of time being really close to the things that are going to help you get better sleep. And you got to do it for a long time with a lot of frequency and consistency. Okay. So, number one, 4 to 5 hours before bed, no caffeine. This is an obvious one. It's a stimulant. It's not allowing that adenosine to build up in your body so that it's naturally cueing you, hey, it's time to go to sleep. It's also a stimulant, which means it's going to be more difficult to go to sleep. Now, some people are more stimulant tolerant. I could probably drink a pot of coffee and then hit the sack, no problem. Other people, one coffee in the morning and they're jittery for the next 8 hours. So how caffeine hits you is different. But even if you think you have a high caffeine tolerance, if your sleep is off the rails, just don't do it. Okay. Let your body completely clear that stuff out before it's time to go to bed. Remember, control what you can control and give your body the best opportunity to do what you want it to do. This one kind of hits people really hard. The no alcohol consumption, because alcohol will make you sleepy. The nightcap to relax and unwind, alcohol is a downer, yes. But the way it's accomplishing that is through channels that will disrupt your sleep. There's a tremendous amount of research on how it affects heart rate variability. It will take your heart rate variability and put it in the tank. This is a recovery metric that's easy to measure with some tools. We'll talk about those later. And alcohol will tank your HRV guaranteed. Insomnia can be created by consuming alcohol within 4 to 5 hours of bedtime, which is not difficulty falling asleep, but it's difficulty going back to sleep if you wake up. So not only are you drinking liquids within 30 minutes, an hour, whatever of bedtime, you're probably going to get up and pee. But because of the effects of alcohol, it is going to make it more challenging to go back to sleep. And lots of research will show that alcohol within 4 to 5 hours of bedtime, I mean, we're talking about lunch, you know what I mean? Like your mid-afternoon snack, okay? This is like 3 p.m. for me. Like I'm going to bed 8:30 because I'm waking up early. But just think about this. If you go to bed at 10, that's 5. It's like you got the drink waiting for you when you get in the car to drive home from work. I hope that's not true. But the chances are, if you're not drinking at work, you're waiting till you get home to do it, which almost guarantees that you're having alcohol inside this window. Now, not saying it's bad to drink, not saying you shouldn't drink, but we are saying still is if your sleep is out of whack, we need to add some guardrails to this thing and maybe think about what we're doing with a higher degree of intention, okay? REM sleep is the deep restorative sleep your body gets. This is the most important. And I'm going to show you a lot of other stuff about REM sleep here in just a minute. So that's 4 to 5 hours before bed. 2 hours before bed, no more fluids at all. Okay, just try to minimize what your body is taking in, because when you take in, your body is having to do and process. And the goal is to get your body into a state of not doing anything. So we're trying to limit. I should put in here, let's just go ahead and do it. Okay, no food. This is not because you can't eat past a certain time and accomplish your weight loss goals. That's not it. This is just so your body has the best opportunity of getting into a parasympathetic state and using its full energy to rest and recover and not have to get up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom. All right, 1 hour before bed. This is a loose recommendation and has a lot of flexibility between individuals. So know that. No blue light exposure. Okay, this is the hardest one because it means you're probably not doing the same thing you do every night right before you go to bed. This was the hardest one for me, hands down. This is how me and my wife spend time together at the end of the day. Once all the kids are in bed, we just hang and watch TV together. So this was very difficult to do for a lot of reasons when my sleep was in the tank. It's worth it. If this is your routine with significant other at night, just be clear what your intentions are. So nobody's sitting around thinking you're ignoring me. You don't want to spend time with me. What's going on here? It's like, hey, look, I got to set up some guide rails for myself so I can get my sleep better. This is something I need to do. We start with 1 hour. This is the one that we will say, if you're still struggling, go to 90 minutes. If you're still struggling, go to 2 hours. We don't go past 2 hours. If you go past 2 hours and it's not helping, go to 30 minutes because then you can probably watch more TV and you're probably still going to be in the same state you're in. That's probably not the answer to all your problems. So that's something that you have permission to tinker with. Just because it affects people differently. And so just know that you have a little wiggle room there. But this includes phones, tablets, TV. These are screen devices. So don't think it's just phones or just TV. If it's a screen, you can do it. Something I didn't put on here, you could also do this. We got some product recommendations. Blue light glasses. These are a thing. They do work. If you're looking to game the system and just see what you can get away with and still be able to sleep okay, blue light glasses might be a good option for you. But they are a lot of good research on them. They do cut the blue light exposure. And so probably not even a bad idea just to pick some up to use more often than not. Okay, we are getting into some nitty gritty here. These are really just like stepping stones getting you up to sleep to make sure your body is not wound up when you're trying to relax and unwind. 30 minutes before bed. Also know, you can have variability in your timeline. Okay. These are not like, if you don't do this 30 minutes before bed, it's not going to work. That's not it. Now, this is a huge environment hack that I didn't put up in environment because it's both part of the environment and part of the routine. Whereas the environmental things, these are like, you only do these once and your environment should be set and ready to walk into every single night after you do those things. This one is something that it preps your environment, but it's a routine-based prep that you do every single night before you go to bed. Now, you're reading essential oils, and I know what you're thinking. Not one of these guys, okay? This is not that, okay? I'm not an oils guy, but I will say, this may be one of the most impactful things for my sleep when I was really struggling of all the things. And here's how it went for me. We started diffusing lavender and serenity, and it was good. When I added vetiver, it was like a quadruple dose of Benadryl. The next morning, me and my wife both could not wake up. We actually had to cut the dose in half and cut the diffusing time in half so that we could come out of sleep and be a functional human being. You can add peppermint if you've got some breathing stuff going on, really good for the airways. So that's a little bonus. But the idea is 30 minutes before bed, which, by the way, we haven't talked about this. You should not be in your room during any of this time. It is best to save your room for sleep. This is where I go to sleep. This is not where I go to watch TV. This is not where I go to do any other thing. This is where I go to sleep. Okay. So 30 minutes before bed, go in and start diffusing this stuff into the air so it fills the room. And when you walk into the room, you start breathing this stuff in and it starts getting into your system in a meaningful way. And it's helpful. Even if it's not helpful, it makes your room smell really good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I will say, I'm not going to endorse any type of oil. I don't care. But you need to pay attention to what you buy. Most stores will sell these, but if you read the label, it says, do not put on your skin, do not breathe into your lungs, and do not ingest. And those are the 3 ways that essential oils are designed to be used. So oddly enough, those shouldn't be used in any capacity, which is interesting. I haven't done a lot of research lately. Previously, when I was looking into this, Young Living and doTERRA were the two purest brands that we could find. There may be other players in the game now, but and they may have different names. Those are names for doTERRA. Obviously, lavender's lavender, vetiver is vetiver. Serenity is a sleep blend from doTERRA. You know, other brands are going to have something else. But if you're looking for those, look for, hey, essential oils that help with sleep. You'll get a list. Do your homework. Make sure you get something quality that you're going to be breathing in, not something that is just money in a bottle. All right. But this was a huge, huge impact. So when you go in 30 minutes before, crank up the diffuser and just make sure your environment is prepped for sleep. Hey, my blinds are shut. Hey, the temperature's where I want it. Or, you know, I got the sheets that are the circulating the water or the air. Everything is ready. I got my ambient noise on. Don't wait till right before you go to sleep to turn it on. Have it on so when you walk into the room, it's already there waiting for you. All right. This should take 5 minutes. Okay. 25 minutes before bed. This is one of my favorites because it helps people with back pain and going to sleep. So double whammy. And notice I've got this hyperlinked here to our video that will teach you how to do this. This is a combo technique that introduces deep tissue stimulation, which has been shown to be a huge like synergistic effect for the parasympathetic nervous system, right? Remember, that's the nervous system that is the relaxation, the rest. It's the downer. It's your body's state of, hey, I'm ready for sleep. Everything's wound down where it needs to be. That is the parasympathetic nervous system. That thing needs to be running hot for you to go to sleep and get good sleep. Okay. Deep tissue stimulation has been shown to take your body from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state. Similarly, deep breathing has been shown to do the same thing. So what we did is we took deep pressure stimulation using a very soft ball straight into the abdomen. Everything that sits between the bottom of your ribs and the top of your pelvis all functions on the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, this is all of your internal organs. These are autonomic and parasympathetic. They're the rest, relax, and digest. Okay, so we're going to put some stimulus straight into that. The nice side effect here is that it actually releases a ton of tension in the low back. So bonus, if you have low back pain that also makes it difficult to get comfortable and go to sleep, this is a great, great exercise to do before you go to bed. All right, so this combines the deep pressure stimulation into the gut, and then we can add the deep breathing on top of that. So we're expanding and relaxing the rib cage. We're getting the diaphragm involved and the deep breathing. So we're getting a lot of tissue work. We're getting the deep breathing all packed into one thing. You can do this for 5 or 10 minutes. And when you come off of that, you're going to notice like, yeah, feeling pretty good about what I did there. So you want to spend 5 or 10 minutes doing that. 15 to 20 minutes before bed. Okay. This is huge mental hack. These are just good habits to have, but I want to especially draw attention to a couple of things. One, if you're like most Americans, read anything. It'll knock you right out. Okay. Most people don't read books anymore. It doesn't even matter what book you read. If you read, it's probably going to put you to sleep. But what follows this should change what you choose to read. And we'll get to that in just a second. This is some of my opinion. There's probably a lot of research, and Arcee can probably speak to a much higher level of this with her background. But when we start getting into what the brain is doing when you sleep, it is processing your day. It's starting to compartmentalize memory. It's starting to like place everything in its bucket and really think about what has happened. And that is going to create your operating system for the next day. And so I love a gratitude practice at night, because if you've got something on your mind that's heavy, shifting away from that into a gratitude space is a really nice way to just get some peace in your mind and in your body that can help you unwind a bit. So really love a gratitude practice. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Like, man, the way my daughter smiled today, that was everything. You know, just the little things. It doesn't have to be a giant list. Pick one thing, pick two things that you had that day, small, big, highlight moments from, previous whenever. Huge hack for the end of the night. And I probably should reorder these. But for the people who have trouble going to sleep, one of the best hacks you can do is plan tomorrow today. Don't go to sleep thinking about all the things you didn't get done today and how are you going to get them done tomorrow. Sit down, brain dump it, put it on paper, and create a plan. So when you wake up, you can just execute. You don't have to think about what was going on. Spend 5-10 minutes. Hey, here's what happened today. Here's what I need to get done tomorrow. Here's how I'm going to tackle that. Get it all out so you don't lay down thinking about it. You've already got it out of your brain onto paper. You can come back to that the next morning and make sure you have a plan for the day so that your body can forget about that tonight. All right. And then doubling back here, I want to talk just a little bit about reticular activating system, maybe one of my favorite things on the planet, and the power of questions. For me, not to me. And let's jump ahead really quick, because here's what's going on when you sleep. You have memory consolidation. This is the primary function of the brain during sleep, is to solidify new memories by reviewing and filtering information from the day, right? So while you're like out of it, not with it, your brain is like reliving the day that you just had and compartmentalizing that into things that it needs and things that it does not. Okay, this is very important. Brainwave patterns like sleep spindles, those are associated with memory consolidation, and these occur during sleep onset. So it's like as you're just getting into your first sleep cycle is when a lot of this stuff is happening, which is super important to be able to get into that cycle. The recency effect, which is the information learned close to bedtime, tends to be better remembered due to the brain's focus on recent experiences during initial phases of sleep. REM sleep and emotional processing is important for processing emotions associated with experiences from the day. Okay, so this goes back to gratitude. Recency effect goes back to what are we going to choose to read before we go to bed. My vote is learning something that's going to be impactful for your life. And then, obviously improved recall. And this was something that's fascinating. Sleep facilitates creative thinking to help you find solutions to complex problems by allowing your brain to make new connections between ideas while you sleep. So sleep is important for a lot of reasons. If for no better reason than you wake up and you feel good and you're not cranky and all those things that you hate feeling like when you wake up and don't sleep. But when we're talking about getting to the end of the day and creating powerful habits that are cues for sleep, I can't think of a better reason to spend some time reading something that you want to learn, because your brain is gonna put those pieces together because you just read it right before you drift off to sleep. No better reason for gratitude than to give your body positive emotions to process from the day, rather than going to sleep thinking about maybe all the things that didn't go like you wanted them to. The reticular activating system is your brain's filter for what are you going to pay attention to? Okay, the things that are important to you are what your brain is going to show you. This is what's so fascinating about the brain. One of the most common examples of this is like you go buy a car and you're super pumped about your car, and then you're driving down the road and you realize everybody has that car. You never saw that car before until you bought one, but now it's important to you. It's also why you can be in a room of 1,000 people. They're all chattering, but when somebody says your name, it cuts through. It's because your name is important to you. What you focus on is what your brain will show you. And that's why reading and learning is important. That's why gratitude is important. And that's why the power of your questions, especially before you go to sleep, is important. Reframing, how did this day happen for me, versus asking your brain, why did this day happen to me, will allow your brain to connect the dots while you sleep and start solving complex problems for your day. So when you wake up tomorrow, you have a powerful platform of, hey, this is what I learned yesterday. This is how this experience is benefiting me and not happening to me. And when you when you complete this habit over and over and over and over again, not only will it help you uh, have more powerful sleep, but have a more powerful day tomorrow when you wake up. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it's giving you some really like tactical boots on the ground things that you can focus on to get your environment in check, create some simple routines that leading up to bedtime to make sure you're giving your brain and your body the best opportunity to go to sleep and stay asleep. And the last thing that I want to share with you, like I don't care if you use my link, full disclosure. If you use that link, you get a free month, and so do I. I don't need a free month. It's just an easy way for you to connect. There are other things out there. I don't care if you use them or not. I just want you to know measuring things matters. Okay. Data makes it easier to make better decisions about what are you doing? How are the things during your day affecting your sleep and affecting your recovery? And there are so many things out there that can actually do that for you that measures your HRV, resting heart rate, your skin temperature, so many things. I will say Whoop is my favorite because it has a journal function that allows you to track what you're doing during the day, and it will tell you how is that affecting your sleep and your recovery, and it will give you a tremendous amount of data every week, every month, and every year showing you, hey, here's your habits and here's how they affected your recovery. Okay, so I'm a huge fan of collecting information. Whoop has been my favorite way to do it. I encourage you to do your own research. I tried the Oura Ring, full disclosure, wasn't my favorite. A lot of that had to do with lifting weights, the ring on the barbell, not cool. But you might really like that. It really is like almost invisible. You forget it's there. It does a great job. It is really, really geared towards tracking sleep, whereas Whoop is kind of has some other things about like daily strain and stress and things like that. But I encourage you get something that helps you track what you're doing. Whether it's Whoop or not. It is important, and it can help you just stay mindful around, okay, how am I spending my day that's going to help me have a greater impact on how I'm going to spend my night. Cool.
That is awesome. Wow, Chad. I'm glad you kind of you got a chance to get into some of the nitty-gritty and the nerdy brain sciencey stuff that is definitely up my alley as well.
Yeah.
And I and I think some of my clients that are in here now and some that will be probably watching this on the replay, some of what you said is very familiar to them, especially in the gratitude journaling and the reading. That is something I actually have them typically do in the morning to help kick off their day. And
Yep.
the idea that even reading is moves your eyes side to side, which actually can help turn off the survival mechanisms in your brain.
Yeah.
So to incorporate this into the bedtime routine, awesome idea. We do have a couple of questions that have come in the chat. I also have
Cool.
some questions from people who registered previously, and I'm gonna kind of throw them at you, and you can maybe direct us to some of the information you provided, or you can dive a little deeper in on them as well.
Yep.
So I guess the very first question, we have someone in the room actually who's asked this, is there was a question about lucid dreaming and how to minimize lucid dreaming and maybe even nightmares as well. I suspect that the reason they're asking is not because they're enjoying their lucid dreams. I suspect the reason they're asking is because they're disrupting their quality of sleep. So
Sure.
what are your suggestions about that?
I, I'm going to divert back to control what you can control. Uh, Dreams are not something you can control, at least not in the way that we seem to understand it. I'm not an expert on dreams. The dreams and sleep are not the same. What I would just challenge here is how many of these things we talked about are you doing? And then the experiment would be as we add things to the environment and to the bedtime routine, how does that affect your sleep state? I wish I had a better answer, like, hey, just do this and your nightmares are going to turn into your dreams. But the idea is like, hey, look, if you're not following some of these things, let's try adding them in, especially like reframing your day at the end of the day with learning, gratitude. Let's reshape the type of questions we're asking right before bed to give your brain something else to do while it's sleeping than maybe this other thing that it's doing. And the idea would be, okay, well, here's my frequency of dreams currently. Let's start adding these things to the pre-bed routine, and let's track the intensity of the dreams, the duration of the dreams, the frequency of the dreams as you go, and see if we can notice a trend downwards away from that.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is like really take it back to the fundamentals, really clean up your space, clean up your head space, right? Clean up your environment, clean up your head space, get back to the fundamentals. And a lot of these symptoms that people are experiencing may altogether disappear or significantly reduce. And if they do, then it will allow them probably a lot more capacity to supplement with other sources of addressing some of those challenges.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. And here's why that's important.
Yeah.
The body has baseline things that it requires for almost everything.
Yeah.
We use this in the pain space a tremendous amount. It's like, well, if your body doesn't have 1, 2, 3, and 4, how can you know your pain is from this one thing? And so what we always want to do is, hey, let's really dial in the fundamentals. And if nothing's changed, that's your green light to go look for what's next. But until you do the fundamentals really well, there's no reason to start supplementing with new skills or new ideas or new treatments or new medications or whatever, because you don't even know if your body can function normally on the fundamentals itself. So let's solve those things first. We can always make a new decision once we've committed to the fundamentals.
I love that. We've got a couple more questions, actually. This is a really big topic for people. In our market research that we did before we even launched Survivor School, sleep came up a lot. And I see a lot of the same questions are popping up in the chat right now. We are getting a question about supplements. Are there things people have heard magnesium or maybe even a specific type of magnesium might be helpful for sleep? What is your thought on supplements and where do they come into play?
Yeah, great question. I'm a huge fan of supplementing for deficiency, not supplementing to supplement. So I would never recommend that anybody just jump into a supplement without knowing if they have a legitimate deficiency, right? If you're deficient in magnesium, and magnesium has been shown to help with sleep, bringing your magnesium back within optimal ranges would obviously help your sleep. If your magnesium is already optimal and you add more magnesium on top of that, it's not likely to affect your sleep. So huge fan of getting your blood work done and seeing where you're deficient, and let's supplement for the things your body needs. This is across the board, whether we're talking about metabolics, hormone health, sleep hygiene. We always want to supplement for deficiencies, right? Now, the most common things that we're going to hear about are melatonin. Okay. And so melatonin is a function of the circadian rhythm. And so you just have to ask the question, if your body needs melatonin to sleep, why isn't it producing your melatonin? And this is going to take us right back to fundamentals. Your sleep cycle's messed up. We need to get back to the fundamentals. If then you can't seem to still get on track, how can we supplement with known supplements to help aid in sleep to take you to the next level?
Right. And I am not a neurobiologist, but much of the research I have read in taking supplements like melatonin as a Band-Aid solution is actually causing more harm than good, because in the long run, it teaches your body to produce less of it on its own, which means you become dependent on it and it may not even work. So yeah, I think we're in the same camp there. Definitely supplement for deficiencies, not as Band-Aids. All right, the next question, this one has come up several times. And what do we do if we wake up in the middle of the night? We can't fall back asleep.
That is always the tough one, right? Because especially if you've already kind of deployed the routines and you got the environment set, you wake up, maybe the gears are turning. I would say there's a couple of things. This one of them kind of runs counter, but we're going to kind of wrap back into the science. If you wake up and you can't go back to sleep because the wheels are turning, brain dump. Okay, write it out. Just get it out of your brain onto paper. You can always go back to the fundamentals of pre-bedtime routine as it relates to some of the mental hacks that you can do. Okay, spend 2, 3, 5 minutes, whatever, get it out of there. Okay, if it's not that and you're just restless, like don't know what's going on, something I have found to be helpful, to worth a shot, is take a really hot shower. And here's why I think that's helpful. I think it gives this, like, we're getting outside of science here. This is just personal. This is just personal experience and the
Yeah.
experience of others that I've coached with. It kind of shocks the body out of its current state because now it's hot. Blood vessels are opening up and starting to shunt blood away from the organs and into the skin and the periphery. But as a result, when you come out of the hot shower, the cooling effect bringing your body back down is kind of that cascade of events that kind of happens when your body's trying to get into sleep mode anyway. So it seems weird, like, okay, well, it's 3 a.m. I'm just going to hop in the shower for 10 minutes. But I have found that to be helpful. It can also be really great for the wheels turning. I don't know if anybody's like me, but I have most of my best ideas in the shower.
That's true.
And then you can't write them down and you wake up and you forget.
Yep.
But it's just a great way to sit and be with your thoughts and just let them fly out. It's okay to be up and thinking about it because you're not trying to go to sleep. And that's the other thing is when you're like mentally, you should be going to sleep. And so you're wrestling with this tension between I'm thinking about all these things, but I want to be going to sleep. And there's just a big disconnect there.
Yeah.
You just go do something else. It removes the tension of I should be asleep right now because you shouldn't be asleep when you're in the shower.
Right.
You should be awake. And
Right.
it just puts your body in a new environment where it's okay to be awake. It's okay to be thinking about things. And then we can step out, kind of reset, go back in bed, and start over.
And I can speak to that a little bit as well. A lot of times, when we are experiencing as survivors, anxiety, panic attacks, that discomfort, that feeling of overwhelm, or that just sense of stress in our bodies, um,
Mhm.
we naturally want to fight sleep when that's the case. And that can happen also when we're excited too, right? It's a similar
100%.
state in our bodies, right? The sympathetic state. And changing your state physiologically is one of the best ways to interrupt that survival mode mechanism. So going from a nice cool room to a hot shower and then back into a cool room does disrupt that state. Absolutely. Um, Something else to this as well, and I think that this is kind of also a tie-in, is the concept of revenge bedtime procrastination, and that idea that we lose our day to things that we don't enjoy, right? If you go to a job you hate all day and then you come home and you spend, hours cooking and cleaning or doing the things that don't fulfill you, when we
Sure.
finally do get that time to ourselves, when it's supposed to be time to wind down and go to sleep, oftentimes we try to steal back our time and our autonomy. So we procrastinate and we look for other things that are exciting to us.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that also, part of that is the we're agitating our nervous system. So
Sure.
again, back to the protocols. If you go and change your nervous system state, take that shower, then go back and repeat that bedtime routine. That's definitely something I speak about quite a bit with
Yeah.
my
But,
clients. Um,
and I think just to kind of piggyback on that,
yeah.
uh, staying off social media is a great way to not feed that beast. If you spent your whole day not doing what you enjoyed and then want to spend, an hour at night looking at everybody else's highlight reel, who in reality probably didn't enjoy their day either. They just had one one really nice photo they could post.
Right.
But I think some of that it could even slow the mind down. Just being off the phones, being invested in something else that you enjoy. But yeah, no, I've never heard that. What'd you call that? Revenge?
Revenge bedtime procrastination. There's a specific term. It comes, that's the translation from a Japanese term that I cannot pronounce. But yeah, it's the concept of when we are not doing enough of what we love, we try and take that time back when the day
Yeah,
does settle, and it's self-sabotaging, right? Like we
sure.
know we should be sleeping, but we want that autonomy back. And that really just points us back to we should be doing more of what we love. I kind of wanted to circle back to this anyway. This could be a perfect time. You said something at the beginning, kind of before we even started, about keeping promises to yourself. And I would love it if you would share that with the group.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And this goes for all areas of life. In my opinion, sleep is one of the easiest ways to do it. And it's just the idea of building confidence. The way that you do that is keeping the promises you make to yourself. And this checklist for environment and for routine for sleep, it doesn't require much. The outcomes are good. Okay. Let's just go down a path of I did all these things and my sleep didn't improve. Okay, these are still great things to do. You know what I mean? Doing the right things are never the wrong thing to do. Maybe they don't lead to the outcome you want, although these likely will. But the idea is, man, I'm making this promise to myself. And every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build your confidence. And the more you build your confidence, the easier it is to step into the next thing, knowing that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Have you seen the new research on anterior mid-cingulate cortex?
No, I have not. Enlighten me, sir.
It's an area of the brain that actually gets larger when you do things you don't want to do.
Wow.
And so it's a big into like mental toughness,
Yeah.
resilience.
Oh, I have heard actually. Yeah, I did read something. I did not make the connection here, but yes, I have read something about that. Yeah, that our brain grows when we challenge ourselves to do hard things. That's kind
Yeah.
of the exposure that I had to it. And yes, we want to do that sometimes, right?
Yep.
We want that growth.
Mhm.
And I think we got to find that balance, making sure we're
Yeah.
doing stuff we love.
This research in particular was not just doing hard things. It was very specific. Doing something you don't want to do and then doing it anyway.
Doing it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Work out. I don't want to. Do it anyway. Cold plunge. Don't want to. Do it anyway. Okay. Not watch TV an hour before you go to bed. I don't want to do that. Do it anyway.
And I think the difficulty, I think, too, a lot of survivors in general have is that the not doing things, doing things that we don't want to do can tend to be very triggering, which is why we actually need better rest so that we have a window of tolerance for hard things or things that we don't want to do. So it is striking that balance absolutely between pushing ourselves, challenging ourselves, and re-regulating our nervous system, fueling our bodies the right way, and all of that. I've got two other questions that have come up, and I want to make sure that I cover them for anybody. And if anybody has any other questions, want to pop them into the chat so we can make sure we answer everyone's questions. But the two big ones that keep coming up is, why am I tired all the time? Meaning people think that they go to bed, they think that they're going to bed at the right time and they have to wake up for work. They're giving themselves plenty of time, but they're just exhausted all the time. Why is that? And
Good
what
question.
can we do if it's not the right amount of sleep? We think we're getting enough sleep. What can we do?
Yep. That's pretty loaded because there are a lot of things, a lot of things that feed into that. Looking back now, it's kind of mind-boggling. I didn't put this on the document, but I will. Consistent sleep and wake time, super important. If your sleep is consistently inconsistent, it's still inconsistent. So yeah, maybe you're getting good sleep, but your bedtime is different all the time. You're waking up the same, which means you're getting more and less sleep, kind of chronically. That's hard for the body to figure out. That can play into it. But there are so many things that can feed into why am I tired all the time. As it relates to sleep and the conversation we're having, I'm still going to default back to, hey, look, hit the fundamentals. Okay. Play the game like it's meant to be played. If you're still struggling with that, now it's your green light to go start looking into, okay, how's hormone balance? Okay. What's my metabolic system functioning like? What are my deficiencies as it relates to my blood pan? Because these are all things that are necessary for the human operating system to be normal. The other one is movement. The body is an energy system. It needs enough energy to accomplish certain things, and it needs to spend enough to accomplish certain things. And it's almost like we see this in people who don't exercise. It's like they get to the end of the day and their circadian rhythm says they're tired, but their body says, but you didn't spend any energy today. And it's like you got this backload, like, like if electricity travels the wrong direction and then things don't go well, your energy is traveling the wrong direction into your body. And it feels tired all the time because it actually needs to get energy out. And so that's one of the first recommendations we make before we even go to blood panel, metabolics, hormones is, are your fundamentals of sleep correct? Are you moving enough during the day? Do you have purposeful exercise? And do you have 10,000 steps of non-exercise activity thermogenesis to make sure we're discharging energy out of your body?
And that's really huge. I think for survivors, a lot of us have spent a long time in functional freeze, right? Where our mind is going. We are burning a lot of mental calories, but physiologically we're holding on to the energy that we would normally be using if we were being chased by a lion back in caveman days, right?
Yeah,
We'd be using that energy to physically, we would expel it to run away from the threats. Or even if there was no threat, we'd be using that energy to do the hunting and the gathering, right? And in
sure.
this
Yeah.
civilized nation that we live now, we don't have to hunt and gather. We go to the grocery store. So, and we sit on the couch and watch Netflix for our entertainment and things like that. So I think that's a really huge point, and is for people to have the understanding that when your nervous system has been turned on and you're in fight or flight and you've been in there for a really, really long time, the idea of exercising is exhausting. And in fact, we will feel when you start to exercise, by the way, if you haven't in a long time because you think you're exhausted, you are going to feel like you want to throw up. You're going to feel like your body is just rejecting this movement altogether. And I am so sorry to be the one to have to tell you is that the only way out is through that. But it can be done
Sure.
gently, slowly, right? It doesn't have to be a miserable experience. There's a lot of ways to go and do that. And I know you're going to be doing another workshop for us on pain and movement, hopefully in the near future. I think you're a few weeks out on that as well. So I would recommend that if anyone is feeling like that might be the case, that they're exhausted because maybe they're not doing enough, I would really encourage them to come to that masterclass as well, because I think there's going to be some good insights to help them move through that.
Yep.
Um, I have one other question that has come up, and if anybody else has any more, please put them in because I want to take this opportunity to get them. We are about maybe about 7 minutes over, but if you're able to stay a few minutes, I would love to get these questions asked. Awesome. So the last question that happens to be on my plate, unless more pop in, are what about our natural tendencies of sleep? You had mentioned that you are not naturally a morning person. What about people who tend to be night owls and are sort of forced to function, as a day walker, so to speak? You had mentioned variable sleep schedules aren't good, things like that. What do you have to say about that, and maybe help relieve some of the shame maybe around?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to relieve much. Per the research, a very, very small percentage of people are actually night owls. We're talking about the people who work till 12, 1, 2 a.m. and will sleep until 9, 10, 11. The percentage of the population is not that. It's a bell curve like anybody else or anything else, where the majority of people are going to be in the median, where it's like, yeah, we go to bed, 9, 10, 11, and we wake up, 6, 7, or 8. That's most people. Now, unfortunately, the work clock doesn't like always fit into whatever your range of that median is. But you're going to have the extremes of people who stay up late, sleep late, the people who just love waking up early. Ultimately, though, like, we can't control what time you have to be at work. Okay. I mean, maybe to a little
Yes, we
bit.
can bite, but
Yeah. Sometimes you can't, sometimes you can't.
right.
The thing you can always control is, hey, I know I have to be up at this time, which means I have to go to bed at this time
Yeah.
to get this amount of sleep. Okay, that's it. It's still back to the fundamentals.
Setting
Now,
boundaries too for yourself, right? Like you said,
yes,
making promises to yourself that sleep
yes,
is equally as important as the Netflix special that you want to watch.
absolutely, and more important because you can watch Netflix whenever.
Whatever, any other.
Uh, but I think more people should set an alarm to go to sleep.
I agree with this. This is
than
huge
just to
for
wake
me as
up.
well.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And if you set your alarm at the right time to go to sleep, it's less likely that you would actually need an alarm to wake up because you're going to get the quality and quantity of sleep that you need at this time. You just have to know consistency of making that change is very important. This goes back to, hey, look, if you want to, if you need to shift your clock forwards,
Yeah.
wake up when the alarm goes off. Force yourself out of bed, get your body moving, get some bright lights on you, and if you can, get with another human being and start talking and doing stuff. This is what's been the best thing for me. I got a workout partner. Okay, you're
Yeah.
not going to catch me dead working out at 5 a.m. by myself. I
But
haven't.
as soon as you make a promise to somebody else, you'll meet them at the gym. You know you're going to be.
I'm not going to leave somebody hanging there,
Yeah.
but it's made it super easy because I wake up, I'm in the gym, the lights are on, me and Ryan are talking, and we're moving, we're lifting weights. So it's easy now. Would I rather sleep till 7? Probably, but I also know I've made this promise to myself, knowing that if I don't do it at this time, the chances that I will do it go down dramatically because like if he texts me and he's like, I can't make it this morning, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do it later. I
Yeah.
don't do it
Don't do
later.
it.
You know what I mean? So it's hey, making that promise to yourself and sticking with it.
Yeah.
There's equal value in that as there is not necessarily fitting into the time block where you really need to wake up. And then I also think it's important to understand that even though something may be your natural tendency, everything in life has a season, including your sleep schedule. You're in a season right now where you have to optimize what you're working with in the absence of being able to live out what your preferences are. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. And even chances are, like if you're being forced to wake up earlier than you want, you're probably going to get so old at some point that you just wake up at that time anyway. You'd probably be mad about it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I waited all these years so I could sleep in late. Now I wake up
And
at
now you don't even want
10.
to.
And that, yeah,
I have a little hack that I have used. I when early on in my healing journey, I struggled with sleep quite a bit. And I would wake up in a panic almost notoriously every day at 4:32 a.m. And that is that's a timestamp memory that my body has from that time of day. And daylight savings time, it would fall back an hour or spring forward an hour. And so that was quite some time before that, sort of able to wean myself off of that 4:32 a.m. And I would reward myself that if I woke up before 5 a.m., that I was allowed to go back to sleep. And if I woke up anytime after 5 a.m., I told myself I have to get up. And that as a little bit of a hack, as a reward for myself, that if it was 4:59, I was allowed to try to go back to sleep, and I would allow myself to wake up whenever was comfortable for me, obviously within reason, assuming I didn't have to go to work or whatever, right?
yeah, yeah.
On Saturday, I allowed myself to sleep in, and allowing myself giving myself that little bit of a rule to follow, definitely helped, because on those days where I did wake up at 5 or 5:05 or 5:15, I just got up early. I was tired enough that I also said, okay, I'll just go to bed early tonight as well,
Sure.
to
Yeah.
kind of compensate for that. So
Yeah.
that's a little
And
hack.
that's a really, really powerful thing you said, rewarding yourself. We could probably unload on habits, cue, craving, response, reward, and how powerful that is. The 21-day thing, it doesn't take 21 days.
It can
It
happen
take
very quickly.
Yeah, it can happen very quickly if you move away from pain and towards pleasure with a high enough degree of intention. And so you can create those things for yourself around sleep. Really, really great hack.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat for a minute and see if anybody else has any other questions. Um, but the other, I guess, kind of a quick recap too. I really want to taking some good notes in the beginning on some things that you said. It's not rocket science, but it is sleep science, right? These are really simple things that anyone can do. You don't need to spend $500 on a sound machine or all of those things. So, these are things that you can do in the space that you've got. It's really about controlling your time, choosing yourself, put yourself first and your needs first. Um, it really is about getting quality sleep. It's not just, okay, you don't just need 12 hours of sleep. If you get real quality sleep, you'll find that you need less.
Sure.
Um, environment plays a huge, huge role in this. And yeah, I think too, one of the things I kind of bring up often, this is kind of what I call it is, sometimes we chase cheap dopamine for a short-term relief, but what we really need is that expensive dopamine, that expensive reward. And those expensive
Yep.
reward is sleep. And sleep is huge. Your brain only heals when it is at asleep. You
Sure.
can only heal from trauma and things when your brain is actually at rest.
Yes.
So I just want to hammer in just how important this really, really is. And I want people to take this seriously. Um, it's not sleeping or feeling tired is not a minor inconvenience. This is like paramount to your health and your success and your healing. So,
Can I share something that's been really just kind of weighing on me lately?
yes, please.
This is becoming quickly one of those filters that I run everything through, and it's called Be Do Have. And you've maybe heard of this or some iteration of it, but
Yes.
we have this natural desire to want, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem with human nature is that we want the thing, and we'll even commit to doing the work, but we haven't committed to becoming the type of person who has the thing. And that's what makes doing the work for long periods of time very difficult to sustain. And so, just an easy question to ask is like, what type of person gets really high quality sleep? And what does that person do? Because you need to step into your alter ego and then not change back. That's the deal. It's like there's a version of you who sleeps really well, and you just have to take the actions that that person takes. That's this confidence thing, the doing the things, following through on the promises you make to yourself, and then not reverting back because that's easy. And
Yes.
if you're just trying to get the thing, you might get it, but you won't keep it. The goal should always be the identity. Like your identity is the seed capital for the work that you're going to put in to get the result that you want to have. And that goes for everything, even the simplest act of sleep. Like if you want good sleep, you have to become the type of person who gets high quality sleep. And that person has routine and they have structure and they have a great environment and they do it religiously, just over and over and over with, they spend a ton of proximity, ton of duration on these things. It's so important.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you said that. We have some really awesome master classes coming up in the next 2 months. Before the end of the year, we are cramming in. I think we have either 18 or 20 maybe total. It's insane. This is such an amazing just kickoff to Survivor School. However, what I want to bring up is we have at least two master classes that take very different approaches so that, some people one approach will work different than the other, but to addressing the issue of identity and how do we
Mm.
become that person. Chad, it's so interesting. The more that you and I kind of chat since we've met, there's so many synchronicities between what you do and the path that I took through my healing journey and what I teach my clients, right even down to I have a program called Energy 63, and the name of your physio is Energy Physio. So funny. But I also use something called the have, do, be. If you want to have more, you have to do more, which means you have to be more.
Mm.
And we
Yeah.
make that shift. It starts with who do we need to be? How do we shift that identity? So I'm really, really excited. The series coming up, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to get involved and start to become the person they want to be so they can be the person for themselves that they need to be.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
as woo woo as that sounds, right?
Yeah.
But that
It's
really
true
is
though.
the truth. We need to have that shift in identity so that we can keep those promises to ourselves, so that saying, hey, you know what? It's 10 o'clock. It's my bedtime. I'm going to bed really becomes a promise you keep to yourself. And it's easy. It's easy to do. So I do know that that feels like a big leap for some of us. Especially the earlier we are in our healing journey, this can feel like a big leap, but there are a lot of resources. There's a lot of support out there for you. And our goal is to bring them all to you so that you guys can get the results that you need. So Um, awesome. There is a lot in the chat, Chad, saying thank you so much. They learned so much. They are so grateful. There's some amazing ideas here. There's a lot of things that people are going to try. I'm getting a lot of direct messages from people saying like they're completely blown away. So much love for you here, Chin. And I
Really
appreciate
appreciate it.
so much.
Everybody who commented, everybody who asked great questions. Thanks for the love here. I really appreciate it. It really is my honor to get to participate and serve and to help and just create impact however I can. So it's been a pleasure being here.
We absolutely love you, Chad. And like I said, you'll be back again in the coming weeks because we have a whole nother masterclass on pain, which is another huge topic. So I will make sure that everyone gets all the links for that so that they can join us for that. And we're all looking forward to it. So thank you so
Cool.
much. Thank
Very
you,
welcome.
everyone, for being
Glad
here.
to be here and look forward to catching up next time.